Alright, let's do some dividing of radical expressions. Let's start off with an easy one here, this 4 divided by the square root of 5. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to get rid of this radical, this square root sign in the denominator. Okay, and to do that, what we're going to do is multiply this expression by the square root of 5 over the square root of 5. Okay, what that gives us is 4 times the square root of 5 divided by the square root of 5 times the square root of 5. Okay, now your rules state that when you have two of these roots being multiplied together, as long as they're the same index, okay, in this case they're both square roots, as long as they're the same index, that you can combine them under one big root sign. So it's going to look something like this. It's going to be 4 times the square root of 5 divided by the square root of 5 times 5. See, I can move both of these underneath one root sign. Okay, now you notice that we have two of these, 5 times 5, that's 5 squared. Okay, another way to write this, you could say that's 4 times root 5 divided by the square root of 25. Okay, now if you have these two things being multiplied here together, as long as they're being multiplied and they're the same, that means they're being squared, right? 5 times 5 is 25. So you could basically, square root of 25 is going to give you 5. So our final answer is going to look something like this. It's going to equal 4 times the square root of 5 divided by 5. Okay, this is our answer. Okay, remember, once again, the goal is to get rid of these radical signs in the denominator. All right, here's our second problem. We have the square root of 8 divided by the square root of 100. Okay, right off the bat, we could say that that's going to equal to the square root of 8 over... Now, the square root of 100 is 10. So we could just kind of write it in there. Square root of 8 divided by 10. Now we kind of need to break this down, the square root of 8. Okay, so we're going to say that that equals to the square root of 4 times 2 over 10. Now, if you have this square root, and these things are being multiplied together here, this is 4 times 2. Okay, as long as they're being multiplied together, you could take out one of these. So the square root of 4, you could take it out. Okay, now the square root of 4, that equals 2. So we have 2 times the square root of 2 over 10. And to get the final answer, all we're going to do is reduce this here, this 2 and this 10. Okay. So we get our final answer as the square root of 2 divided by 5. Okay, this one may be a little bit more challenging. Here we have the square root of 6 divided by the square root of 27. And what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite that as the square root of 6 divided by the square root of 9 times 3. Okay, and what that does is allows us to take this 9 out. See, we have the square root, as long as they're being multiplied together, you could take out this 9, the square root of 9. So we get that equal to the square root of 6 divided by 3 times the square root of 3. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to get rid of this root sign in the denominator. Okay, we need to get rid of this root sign. And to do that, it's pretty simple. We're going to multiply this by 1, but we're going to represent this number 1 as 3 times the root of 3 divided by 3 times the root of 3. Okay, remember, anything divided by itself is 1. So we're not really changing anything. You can multiply anything by 1 and it still remains the same. Okay, what that does, that gives us here this root 6. So we have root 6 times 3 root 3 divided by 3 times the square root of 3 times 3 times the square root of 3. Okay, now multiplying these out, we have 6 times 3 times the root of 3. Okay, so what we could do is we could say that that's going to be 3 times the root of 6 times 3 divided by 9 times the square root of 9. Okay, 3 times root 3 times 3 root 3 is going to give us 9 times the square root of 9. So now we have 3 times the square root of 18 divided by 9 times 3. Okay, at this point you see you could cancel out this 3 and this 3. So what we're left with is the square root of 18 divided by 9. Now, I'm going to go ahead and erase some of this stuff up top so I can make room here. And this is the point we're at. Square root of 18 divided by 9. So we have square root of 18 divided by 9. We're going to say that equals square root of 9 times 2 over 9. And once again, as long as these things are being multiplied, I could take out this square. 9 is a square, so I could take it out. So we get that equals 3 times the square root of 2 over 9. Once again, reducing. Final answer, square root of 2 over 3. All right, another challenging one. Here we have the square root of 15 divided by 5 times the square root of 20. So what we're going to do here is multiply this by 5 root 20 over 5 root 20. Okay, that's going to give us the square root of 15 times 5 times the square root of 20 divided by 5 square root 20 times 5 root 20. Okay, now as long as these are being multiplied together, okay, and they have the same index, okay, only for multiplication, it does not work for addition, but for multiplication, okay, if you're multiplying something and they have the same index, in this case, it's a square root, then you could go ahead and combine those. So what we get here is 5 times the square root of 15 times 20 divided by 25 times the square root of 20 times 20. Okay, when you're multiplying them together, if they have the same index, you could kind of combine them, underneath one radical sign. Okay, so what we get here is we get 5 times the square root of 15 times 20 divided by 25 times 20. Okay, now what we want to do is we kind of want to factor these out and find if we could bring anything out. Okay, so we get 5 times the square root of 3 times 5 times 5 times 4. Okay, 15 is 3 times 5. 20 is 5 times 4. And then, of course, that's going to be over 25 times 20. Now, I'm leaving it like this. I'm not multiplying these out because I'm assuming that here in a moment we're going to be able to cancel things out. Okay, so here we have this. These are being multiplied together underneath the square root sign. So we have this square. 5 times 5 is 25. That's a square. Underneath the square root sign, we could bring it out. Okay, we could also bring out this 4. So it's going to look like this. We have 5 times 5 times 2 times the square root of 3. Okay, this 2 comes from this 4, bringing it out, gives us a 2. 5 and 5, we bring that out, we get this other 5 here, divided by 25 times 20. Now we could kind of cancel out 5 times 5 and 25. Those are going to cancel. 2 and 20. So we get our answer here, square root of 3 over 10. Okay, once again, just want to point this out that as long as these are being multiplied together, okay, if they're being multiplied together and they have the same index, you could combine them underneath one radical sign. Okay, and then from there, you just kind of start canceling, you start bringing things out, and then canceling. Okay, our next problem here, we have the square root of 4 divided by 5 times the square root of 3. Right off the bat, we can simplify this square root of 4. So now we have 2 divided by 5 times the square root of 3. And what we want to do to get rid of this root sign in the denominator is multiply. Okay, that gives us 2 times 5. That gives us 10 times the square root of 3 divided by 5 times 5 is 25, times the square root of 3 times 3. Okay, kind of combining everything together. 5 times 5 gives us 25, root 3 times root 3. Here we have root 3 times 3. Okay, what that allows us to do is kind of rewrite it again. 10 times the square root of 3 divided by 25 times 3. Okay, simply taking this is a square, 3 times 3 is a square. Underneath the square root sign, cancels it out, kind of essentially brings that 3 out from underneath that root sign. Okay, at this point we could do a little canceling. Okay, 10 and 25. Okay, each is divided by 5, so here we have 10 divided by 5 gives us 2, 25 divided by 5 gives us 5. So here we get our answer, 2 times the root of 3 divided by 5 times 3 is 15. Alright, in our final problem here we have 3 times root 20 divided by 2 times the square root of 4. Now we could rewrite this. We could say that this is 3 times the square root of 4 times 5 divided by 2 times the square root of 4 is just 2 times 2. Okay, now this allows us to take out this 4. Here we have a root sign and we have a square. We have a square root and a square. 4 is a square, 2 times 2, so we could take that out. Okay, so essentially that gives us 3 times 2 times the square root of 5 divided by 2 times 2. Now at this point we just cancel. So we get our answer here, 3 times the root 5 divided by 2. Alright, I want to thank you for watching this quick video on dividing radical expressions. Please hit the like button, leave a comment down below, and if you like these videos and want to see more, simply subscribe to my channel. Thank you.